Hello and welcome to the Mechanicians, Racing Stories, where we meet the men and women that do the work in motorsports. I'm your host, Rob Klyver. The stories that follow are personal interviews with the people that you've probably never heard of. Mechanics, engineers, office people, really any of the folks that make racing happen. Occasionally, we will visit with drivers too, many of whom started in support roles. Hey, welcome back. I've picked up a pretty nasty cold, so I really don't have it in me to go ahead and edit up an entire session. But what I thought you might like to know is who's coming up on this show. I've mentioned I've got hours and hours of recordings that I've just got to get to editing. So let me run down the list real quick. One of them is Joel Swanlaw, production supervisor of Cinzer Vehicles and former BMW road mechanic of the race team. He's got some great stories about what it's like to be out there and battle his way through his career, and has really landed in a neat spot with Cinzer Vehicles. They produce this amazing high-end, high-tech sports car right here in Southern California. That's really pretty cool. So look forward to Joel. Bob Butte, the very first Jim Russell racing mechanic in North America. As Bob likes to say, it took him 3 years to finish the program. He was so bad at it. He and Jacques go way back to the 70s and the very first series of mechanics working on the cars together up in Canada. Great stories. I got a lot from him. I need to get some more, but I think you're really going to find an interesting career path for Bob. Speaking of Jacques, he is, of course, one of my many hours of video, founder of the Jim Russell Racing Schools in North America, Formula B champion, if I remember right. I'm terrible at remembering all these guys in their driving. Jacques has some great stories about life as a young man in Canada and later in Europe, working his way up through the series and getting to know Jim Russell himself, and then coming to the United States to create the mechanics training program. I was just working on episode with Christopher Smith, the Formula Atlantic driver and son of Carroll Smith, the engineer who wrote the book and helped me formalize the mechanics program. And really fun to meet with Christopher at his home in Southern California and to see some of his dad's collection and to really get a feel for what it's like to have been there and done that in the early days of Formula Atlantic when a father and son could still come out and beat everybody. Good stuff in that one. Jonathan Gashel, former Russell mechanic in the karting center and a lay-down go-kart racer. That's if you've never seen that, you should Google it. Imagine laying down and then going 100 miles an hour. I don't understand it. It's insane if you ask me, but it's really fun to talk to an old friend. I have a follow-up also with Brent Cusick. I owe you one. He was one of the first guests on this show, if not the first real guest. And I caught up with him again back in November. He's at Aerodyne Advanced Composites. They do most of the work for IndyCar. And he and I work together at Honda, and he gives us an update as to where he is in life and how things are going in the composite world. And the other thing I have, and it's going to be very visual, so it'll be more YouTube-y, I have dozens and dozens of original items shared from John Blazer collection. John is the guy who wrote the book, The Mechanicians, introduced the term to me, and we've spoken very briefly over the years. He's in the Midwest where it's cold, and I'm not, but he has some amazing items in his collection and some stories where he actually interviewed some of the early mechanics, the mechanicians, who rode on the cars at Indy, if you can imagine. Here, let me show you something. Oops. The Forgotten Heroes of the Speedways, the riding mechanics. John Blazer and Tom Rawlings wrote that together as a supplement to the Indy Star Times. And I have one copy, and the picture on the cover, if you can see it, is a couple of guys in a very experimental Gilmore special with Stubby Stubblefield and Otto Wolfer as the mechanic. That's a 1932 image. So I've got some really neat stuff to share. I'm just out of steam, and I really hope that I can get back to it. I plan on trying to get something together for the weekend, but you get what you pay for in podcasting. Anyway, thanks again, folks. Share, subscribe, thumbs up, tell a friend, ask a friend, and hopefully we can get some more people. I've got 2 more current working mechanics in the field who are up against race season. Race season's here, and if you saw any of the race at Daytona, you saw Porsche knock it out 1 and 3, and my Acura came in second. I had a little bit to do with that program, so I still own it, and I'm really excited to see they're doing well, and I hope they go to Sebring and survive the bumps. Anyway, thanks again. Greatly appreciated. See you around. Bye-bye.